on speed dial, and therefore, we pick up an awful lot of work around the UK from people that need some help and advice, or actually some of our services. Now, calling us isn't necessarily a problem, because one of our many mottos is our advice is always free. Now, specifically referring to the TCCPA, okay, I understand an awful lot of you wish to get yourself get a route to market that previously hasn't existed, primarily because of COVID-19 lockdown. And probably the easiest way of doing that is an online shop with home delivery. Now, a lot of you already will be registered with the AWRS, that's the Alcohol Wholesaler Registration Scheme, which is run by the HMRC and allows you to wholesale your products, your produce from business to business. However, clearly, off sales to members of the public, that is a sale by retail, for which you will need two important things. Firstly, there is a personal license, and secondly, there is a premises license. And without one of these two, you really are struggling. One-offs, you can use temporary event notices, but they are very much a stopgap. And you're only allowed to trade for 21 calendar days a year under 10s. So like I say, really stopgap. Okay, so very briefly, I'll talk you through personal licenses. Paul and I have both got one. I applied for mine on leaving the police. I used to be a police inspector in Hereford for my sins. If anyone's met me before in an earlier role, I'm very sorry about that. I know a little bit about licensing law. Paul is the operational wing to the outfit. So, when it comes to selling, Paul's got 30 odd years of experience. He was middle management in the Stonegate group. He probably sold millions of pints of lager, of beer and cider and whatever drinks over his career. So he is very much that kind of that side of the business. Okay, so let's talk about those personal licenses first. These are obtained, in fact, everything's obtained from the licensing authority, which is a code word, really. It's just the council where you live. So wherever you physically live, that is the licensing authority, and that's who you need to be dealing with. To qualify for a personal license, you need to be 18 years old. You need to have no previous convictions that are relevant and valid. The one that catches most people out, especially on the rural, is a recent conviction for drink drive. We've had a couple of cider producers or their staff that have come to us over the last 3 years who I'm afraid have got that on their history and have had to wait for that to expire before they can go on to get a personal license. To make sure that you are of good character, they're going to want you to do a DBS check. Do not do the enhanced one. That's for working with children and vulnerable people. It's a £25 course. Sorry, it's a £25 check. And if you get in touch with us, we will send you the link. The reason we do that is there's a lot of fake sites out there that look like you're talking to the DBS, the Disclosure and Barring Service, but you're not. What you're doing is you're giving your personal details, like your national insurance number and copies of your passport and shit, plus your bank details to a to fraudsters who, needless to say, steal your identity online and cause you all sorts of problems. So, you go Google DBS check if you like. You'll see there are loads of different things down. This client was actually out at Lionsall. He went and bought a DBS check, but he wasn't. He didn't. It was a scam site. Okay, so be careful with that one. And lastly, you're going to have to do an exam. Now, this is called the Award for Personal License Holders. Now, you can do that 3 ways. Firstly, you can come on one of the courses that Paul and I run. We've got one usually running upstairs in the Wellington every month. It takes a day. It's pretty intense, actually, but we must be quite reasonable trainers, actually, because none of our people have ever failed, which was another of our proud quotes, boasts, I should say. Okay, or You can, if you're particularly minded, some people had a very bad experience in school, very bad experience indeed, and they really do worry about getting back into a classroom scenario. So some people actually pay us to come to their place of work and actually train them on a one-to-one. That takes a day, there's an exam at the end, and away to go. Now look, since COVID's kicked in, all that kind of formalised training, the one-to-one and the classroom scenario, that's all it's all suspended. I've not run a course like that for about 2 months. So Paul, being really good on the technical stuff, he has set up an online course that you can do, and actually it's pretty cheap. If you come on one of the classroom courses, it costs, what with VAT, about 160 quid. Okay, you get a free lunch, great, fantastic, and you get a day in my company. Paul's worked out a route whereby you can do your exam online in the comfort of your own home for £99 all in. So that we've got an information sheet that we're going to make available at the end of this, and it's got a link on it if you're interested in that. Okay, so you marshal together your DBS check and your exam certificate, your passport to prove you can work in the UK, live and work in the UK, or your right to work documentation if you haven't got a UK passport or an EU passport while we're still in Europe. And you send it off to the council, you pay them £37, and they send you back your personal licence. Now, your personal licence entitles you to sell alcohol in your own right, or to authorise your team, the people working for you, to sell on your behalf. So that's the first thing, okay? Now, the second bit is called the premises licence. Now, it's a bit like driving a car, okay? You've got your driving licence, which you sort of carry in your wallet, and that's your personal licence. I carry mine in my wallet, so, you know, that entitles you to drive a car on the road. Your vehicle excise licence entitles you to drive this particular car on the road, okay? So think of the premises license as the tax disc. That allows your premises, because you now are authorised to sell alcohol, to sell from this particular premises. These two are obtained from the licensing authority. It's the High Forest, not surprisingly, Kidderminster, Tewkesbury. We've got a job on in Tewkesbury over the border in Gloucester we're dealing with today. So whoever is your local council, they're the ones you should be going to. Now you can do this sort of one of three ways. But they're issuing authority anyway. One of three ways. If you're pretty confident in your ability to negotiate the licensing act and the compliance regimes around that, and doing your own plans and the legal vagaries of legal notices and newspaper notices and all the rest of it, go ahead and do it yourself, and good luck with it, because it's not easy. Secondly, you can go to the council themselves. As Dave Sanders has already told us, there is actually, where they call it an application service. It's not actually an application service. What it is, it's an advice service. They'll advise you on how to fill it in. And they're great guys, I'm sure, but what they will advise you is what they want you to have. Now, the majority of our clients come to us, and we've got clients, we've got the files here, we've got about 12 on the go at the moment, from all over the country. From Hackney, Northampton, Paul's been to Northamptonshire this morning on a job, up in Yorkshire, like I say, all over the UK. Now, what happens is, if you go to the advisory service and you feel a little bit obliged to best out of this, actually, to go independent, they either go to a solicitor, they're pretty expensive, or they go to licensing consultants like us. And we do it all. We provide this turnkey service whereby you tell us what you want, and we go away and we get it as best as we can. We offer well, like I say, in fact, I think it's fair to say we've never actually lost a case, because we know we've got a raft of experience in making these applications and understand what's required and understand all the compliance and all the conditioning that goes behind that. And I think that's about it. Paul, I'm about to have missed loads. Do you want to have a go? I'll set myself on mute now. I think I've been talking for all about 10 minutes non-stop, so I'll shut up.
No, pretty much. I think as Nick has said, he's pretty much covered it. So the key is to getting your personal license, which is doable online. It's cheaper than actually doing it in person at the moment. And if it's yourself or some of your team members, certainly at the moment we find. I know it's slightly different, but some of the pubs have got team members. I've got a bit of downtime at the moment. They're furloughed, so they are putting them through the online course, and we've seen that done and completed and certified within about 3 to 4 days, which is pretty quick. And then the premise license, as Nick said, is down to your local authority, and it is something that you can do yourself. It is a bit of a minefield, as we found out later, when it comes to placing blue notices in the right place and having the right wording on it. That's another story. But yeah, it's a process that can be done, and at the moment we are being approached by various producers on how we can get route to market, and certainly with trying to get your product online is making sure that it isn't just a case of setting up a web shop, but everything contained within the application allows you to be able to sell online. Because Herefordshire Council and different councils across the country have different stipulations. Some councils won't let you accept debit card online. Some councils insist that there's certain type of wording that's printed on the actual website. And this is something that probably will come up next week with regards to the online sales. So it certainly is within a route to market, getting your stuff onto a web shop. Then we need to make sure that the processes and policies down to from the point of sale to the point of delivery, that you've got your correct record keeping in place, and that you've certainly got the conditions on your license to allow you to do that. But when we are or yourselves applying for a license for you, it's also worth bearing in mind whether you apply just for off sales, which will allow you to deliver to the public. It will allow you to sell online. But then do you consider, actually, I want to make it for on sales at the same time? So we've just completed a license for a local producer in Herefordshire, and he's decided that he wants an on and off license, because part of where he produces the cider in the store, he's going to turn into a sampling shop where he can have events on site. So it's also worth thinking about at the time, if we're going to go through the process, or you're going to go through the process of putting in an application to go this far, is it worth thinking forward? Well, actually, I've got this bit of space in a barn that I think maybe in a few years down the line, I'd like to be able to turn this into a little bit of a shop, maybe have somebody come to site, maybe do a little bit of tasting, have a little bit of food. So again, it's worth thinking of the bigger picture now than just concentrating on getting it straight to market. And do you know what? It's not a biggie. We could the plans can be drawn up, and it's very rarely that something like that would be turned down. So if you are thinking about getting your route to market, it's also worth thinking of what can we do perhaps next year, or something that you like in your head with regards to selling your product or doing something close within your premises. So yeah, just something else to throw out there.
Super. Well, does anybody have any burning questions at this point? Nick and Paul have obviously sort of thrown out some of the basic elements then, so there's a few questions. So we'll go to Dave Matthews first of all, and then to Phil Palmer. Over to you, Dave.
Just unmute myself. Yeah. Good evening, everybody. I'm applying at the moment for a premises license, and I've just got one stumbling block. I'd like to ask the advice of Nick and Paul, but also everybody really. There's a box on the form for the premises license, which is business rates value. And I'm struggling to get that. I've emailed the Herefordshire people, the business rates department. I've emailed the valuations office agency and had no reply from either. Am I barking up the wrong tree?
Nick is your man.
Okay, I can help you with that. All you got to do is just email us afterwards. I've got access to the business rates online, and if you give me your postcode, if you're not there, you're not rated for business rates. In that case, you'll save yourself quite a bit of money, because if you're not rated, it only costs £100 to make that application. If you are rated for business rates, it goes up to 190 or 315, depending on what your rateable value is. So all you got to do, it's in fact, everybody make a note of this, because we love things like this. Info@thelicensingguys.com. So Dave, just drop us that email and I'll
Thank
get
you.
back to you.
Yeah, Dave, I've got your details anyway, so I can ping something across to you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Paul. That's
Yeah, no
brilliant.
worries.
Okay. Thanks, boys.
Super.
No
There
worries.
we go. A new happy customer. We like it. Mr. Palmer, over to you. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, folks. I have a personal license, but not the premises license. So are you saying that there are basically 2 levels of premises license that you could apply for?
Hi, Phil. Do you want me to take that one? No, the premise license is individual to your premises, so there is only one. There is only one premises license. Your personal license is individual to you. So if you were to say, for example, want to sell within your premises, or you were to go and run a premises for somebody else, that license travels with you, a bit like a driving license. But the premises license is what will license the licensable activity, which is the retail sale of alcohol, on your premises itself. Does that sort of answer your question?
Right. What I was more getting at is the premises license. You can have one for on sales and one for off sales.
Right, Phil, I can do this one. Okay, Phil, you're there. Right.
Yeah.
How it works is this: you have one premises license, but it depends what it says on it. Some are on licenses; you can only drink on the place, like a pub. Others are off licenses, like Tesco's, where you can only drink off the place. Or you get some places like the Barrels in Hereford, which has got both. So you can go in there, you can have a few pints, and then you can say to them, can you put me a couple of 3-4 pints in a plastic bottle for me to take home on my bike, please? Right? And so they'll give you that off sale that you can take home with you. Does that help at all?
What I'm personally after is the ability to sell online and deliver to customers. I don't actually want to sell from my premises as such. I don't want people coming. I've got a semi-detached house where I make my cider. I don't want people coming to the house for the cider. Absolutely. But I don't mind delivering to them for cider.
Okay, right. Where, if you don't mind me asking, which county do you live in?
I'm in Newport.
Newport, Gwent?
Yeah.
Yeah, in that case, yeah, you apply to Gwent, or we'll do it for you if you want us to, and you'll be applying for an off license, okay? Because you just don't want people turning up.
No,
okay.
That's right. That's right.
Tasters, actually, you can give away samples, but if you in law, you can get the like little thimbles full, right? That's not a proper taste. So, but if you're not having people drinking at your place, yeah, it's definitely an off license, and you're going to need some conditions around that. For example, right, what you're going to need is your delivery drivers operating Challenge 25. Now we've just dug Uber Eats' largest customer in the UK, a pizza delivery company that also delivers alcohol in Carlisle. Kind of a world of shit. They've been prosecuted. They've lost their license. They're in a world of hurt because one of their Iraqi Kurd drivers must have had an absolute brain fart, because what he did was he turned up in his little pizza wagon and was met by 2 12-year-old girls at the door, and they go, "Yeah, thanks for the pizza. Can we have our vodka and our apple sours that we ordered with it?" He goes, "Certainly." Right, gives them this drink, right, and they ended up in hospital. They were really, really ill, you know, in the ITU or whatever, with acute alcohol poisoning, right? Oh man, it was just an absolute mess. Well, Paul had to go up to Carlisle to sort it out, and part of sorting it out means retraining all those delivery drivers. So your delivery guy, he has to practice Challenge 25. That will be an integral part of your off license when it's written, okay, that your drivers are trained, and there is some insistence that if anybody presents at the door to take to accept that delivery, if they look under 25, you need to get them to crack out some ID, some photo ID, and there's a list of what's acceptable to prove that they are 18. Has that answered your question, my friend?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, no worries, man.
I've following on from what's just been said there, a couple of questions from me. In regards to the application of a potential on license and off license, is it, if somebody is undertaking this application for premises license the very first time, is it in their best interest just to go ahead with the application of both on and off from the start because it's easier than trying to do it retrospectively later down the line, or is there extra cost involved in applying for both, Nick?
Right, okay. So if you want to get online straight away because of COVID-19, you don't want, like Phil, you don't want people rocking up at your house. Yeah, you go for the off license. Paul's advising that if you're thinking of having a bottle room or a tap room at some stage, why not do it now? Because it's a standard fee. Okay. Now look, if you've got an off license at the moment and you're selling online, but you're thinking, do you know what? It'd be really, really great to have a bottle room in that tap room or whatever over there, that former barn. Okay, you can vary your premises license, and it costs about the same as an application, and it's very much the same sort of process. Takes 28 days, and you've got to submit all these plans, and oh my lord. Okay, so by getting two birds with one stone, by applying for both on and off from the get-go, you save yourself that process and expense further upstream. Okay. Is that any good, Gabe?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And just before we have our next question, you mentioned about samples there. Now, you know, I've visited a cider cellar or two in my time whereby the samples have been exceedingly generous, and I was very grateful for that as well. I'm sure that the licensing officials might be less happy with that. Is there a or if the official rules are a thimbleful, where's the line of like not taking the mickey?
Right. Okay. Now, good. Brilliant question. Right. If you stand in the butter market, and this is where we did it with Watkins cider. Okay. If you stand in the butter market and you want to do tasting and sampling, okay, you have to abide by what's called the Portman group, who are all into like responsible alcohol promotion and all the rest of it. Okay, they're good people. We know them really well. They've got a code of conduct, and for the life of it, there's three things you got to do. Firstly, you've got to make sure that the kids aren't getting their hands on the samples. Okay. Secondly, you've got to make sure that people aren't going to walk out of there and get behind a car and drive. Get into a car and drive, or use your best endeavours. And thirdly, it's to do with sample sizes. They're supposed to be little, I don't know, little cups. I haven't got it to hand, but don't worry. I can. If you want those Portman Group recommendations, just email us. We'll send them off. Right now, the next thing I've got to say is this, and this is really good, Gabe. It's not licensable to give the stuff away. Now, you are the ciderologist. And if you rocked up at my place, I'd be pretty keen on you having a pint of everything, as much as you wanted, because obviously,
very kind. Thank you.
Well, your opinion is national opinion forming, isn't it? So you do not need a license to give stuff away. Okay, that's not sampling. That's proper bloody drinking, isn't it? And reviewing and all the rest of it. So the Portman stuff wouldn't necessarily kick in there. What I was describing was what cider makers do at fairs or at the butter market in Hereford when they turn up on a farmer's market. Okay, yeah. So a producer can have you in and say, "Would you like to sample my stuff?" and give you pints of it. It's not a licensable activity because they're not taking money for it. The licensable bit is the sale by retail. He ain't retailing it. He's going, "Gabe, drink as much as you want, mate. Give me a great review. Make a video about me." I don't know, but you know that's the difference. Not licensable. You don't need a license to do it. Okay.
All right. There we go. Thank you very much. Next question we have from Jeremy Stunt. I think he might have just dropped off the call. Actually, I think he's struggling a little bit with the connectivity. He did have a question. Does anybody else have a question at this point? Mr. Richard Toft.
Hello, Gabe.
Hi,
just getting slightly worried about a couple of comments there. I'm listening in, but we have an on license and an off license here. But we've never done online sales or anything before. Is there a likelihood we can't do that without relicensing? Or is some of the relaxation that has been brought about for people doing off sales relevant at the moment? Thank you.
Okay, hello, Mr. Toft. It's Nick here. I don't know if you can hear me. I can't see you, but it doesn't matter. Oh, there you are, sir. In which county do you live right now?
Worcestershire.
Right. I am not sure what Worcestershire's arrangements are. If you're over the border, in fact, we've got a job on in Starport right now, but it wasn't for online sales. In Herefordshire, Herefordshire insists that people register on the site before they buy from you. They then insist upon you doing 192.com checks on your customers, because they think that they honestly believe that means you're over 18. It doesn't actually. It just means that you've registered to vote. Now there's loads and loads and loads of people that haven't registered to vote. All right. So personally, the value of that test, I am not convinced with. And lastly, they insist upon very rigorous Challenge 25 testing, if you know what I mean, checks upon delivery. Okay. Now, I'm not. So, if you want to sell online in Herefordshire, you need to have those conditions. They will insist upon you having those conditions. I am not sure what they want in Worcestershire. What would be really great is if you scanned in a copy of your premises license and you emailed it over to us, and we'll have a little look at it. And without naming you, I might phone Worcester Regulatory Services, with whom the licensing guys have an excellent relationship, and ask them if they demand any additional conditions for online sales. If they don't, fill your boots. If they do, we'll need to have a chat about just modifying your license slightly. Now, there's one little bit of a misnomer I just need to explode here, and you didn't say it, but just in case anybody's thinking. COVID-19 regulations, they've relaxed certain aspects around pubs, allowing them to do takeaway food, not takeaway drink. Okay, so if they're not licensed for an off license, a pub can't do takeaway drink. Okay, it was only to do with food, so they could keep their kitchens going. I don't know if that's if that's helped at all, but if you just scan it in, email it across to us, we'll have a very good look at it for you, sir.
Super.
Yeah, thank you very much. And like I say, I don't know, just out of curiosity, whether there's any difference in sort of now doing things like the click and collect, where it's been pre-booked online, rather than just sending out with a national carrier.
Again, sir, again, if you would be kind enough, like I say, our advice is always free. Just scan it in, get it over to us, and we'll have a look at it for you. Is that okay? Okay.
Super. That's great. Thank you, Nick. Next up, back in the room, we have Mr. Jeremy Stunt. Jeremy, you had a question. Jeremy, I think your connection's a little poor. Can you hear us okay? If you've got a question, speak up. There we go.
Sorry, just unmuting. Thanks. Lovely information. Thank you. I've got two questions, maybe a little bit sort of weird curveball. The first one is, if you don't have a premises, let's say you sell from a vehicle, let's say you have a mobile bar, and you only sell from there, and you take that to events or somewhere, what are the rules around that? You get the personal license, but how could you sell from a vehicle?
Okay, I can deal with that one. Right, you are not allowed to sell from a vehicle, a moving vehicle. All right, that's why you have a bar on a train, but you don't have one on a National Express coach. However, you can from a vehicle if it's stationary, parked up. And therefore, we're the licensing guys, we've licensed horse boxes, camper vans, all sorts of things for eventing. You, in that model, you would be turning up at an event, setting up your horse box bar, you'd be using temporary event notices. Okay? So you don't need a premises license for that, it's a temporary event notice. But as I stressed right at the beginning, temporary event notices are pretty damn temporary. Okay, you might be better served if you want to do online or off sales by applying for a premises license for a small part of your premises and then selling from there. on this click and collect
Right.
or on a delivery basis. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And the other one, which is a bit more of a weird one, is what if the business is a kind of drop shipper? So let's suppose I have an online shop, and then I pass the orders to makers, who then, through whatever arrangement we have, will deliver directly to the customer.
Right, brilliant. I'm glad you touched on this. It's complicated, but we can make it pretty simple. Okay. It's all to do with the contract of sale. Okay. When you buy something online, you actually buy it in cyberspace. You buy it on a laptop, or you buy it on the internet or something. It's very, very difficult to work out where that sale went on. It's pretty easy to work out where the money went across because there's an electronic transfer, but it's actually, again, that's in a bank. So, you wouldn't be licensing banks. So the legislators got around this, and they say that the thing that needs to be licensed is where the alcohol is appropriated for sale. Very legal shit, but what have you. We can get our heads around it. Appropriated for sale means picked, packed, and dispatched. Okay. Therefore, Tesco's call centre does not have a premises license, nor does the Deliveroo app when you contact them and you order some margaritas with your pizza to be delivered by a guy with a rucksack on his back and all the stuff in the back. Okay, the place that has the premises license is where it's picked, packed, and dispatched from, i.e. the warehouse. And Paul and I have licensed in Herefordshire the Craft Can Directory, which is that kind of outfit. Local e-sourced, we're licensing them at the moment, got them up and running, which is the same sort of operation, and also gin distilleries and cider presses, but the warehousing, dispatching part of it, that is the bit that has the premises license. Are we good with that, sir?
Yeah, and just to follow up, so if it were being dispatched directly from the makers, then it would be the maker would be need the premises license.
Yeah, you've nailed it.
Off sale.
Absolutely, you got it.
Okay. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Good question. Thank you, Jeremy. Any other sort of burning questions from Mr. Keith Orchard? Good afternoon, sir. Then over to Phil Palmer again.
Hello there. How are you doing? I'm very much like Phil, as I'm interested in selling online only. But previously, when I had the farm, I did look into getting a license. And at the time, it was going to be an on license as well, and they're saying I needed to be DDA compliant. So I suppose from my point of view, when it comes to having a premise license for doing off sales, is there a parameter to which that particular building needs to fall within? If that makes sense, as in the caliber of the building, or what sort of restrictions would there be on that?
Right. Are you talking about planning permission, sir?
Yeah, no, just generally a building to sell from, as in, shipping out your goods, basically, or the warehouse that holds my product. Right.
Oh, right. Okay. Now, yeah, right. Planning permission, that is an absolute minefield. We have I know you say not, but it actually...
sorry, I've already got the building. It's what I'm selling from.
Yeah, no. Now, yeah, okay, right. This is to do with permitted uses on a building, right?
Yeah.
Are you allowed to, right, which falls into planning? Now, look, you've got two separate legal frameworks, okay? You've got licensing over here and you've got planning over here, and they're not the same. They are not the same. So we went and licensed a brewery tap room in Malvern recently, and at the licensing hearing, people are trying to bring up all sorts of planning considerations, which, about, oh, well, there'll be people leaving at night, and there'll be, what about the cars past? Oh, my Lord. It was, they got themselves confused. They got themselves into a mess, the protesters, the NIMBYs. Okay. Planning, not a game for amateurs. Okay. So much so, we've gone into a strategic partnership and that planning wing within the licensing guys. Currently, we're looking at an operation over in Worcestershire, and our planning agent is looking at that on our behalf or on behalf of the client. Now, look, what we're talking about there is this. We're talking about somebody's dwelling house with an outbuilding that they'd like to pick, pack, and dispatch from. And so we're saying, well, how much are you thinking of doing? And they say, no, well, we keep under the 8,000 litres, so we don't fall out with the HMRC. And actually, only this year we've only bottled 2,000 litres. And our delivery day is just a question of a small van, you know, going out on a Thursday. Now that is massive, because that, you know, that is a very, very small artisan craft cider operation that is not going to have massive impact from around planning or around business use.
That's probably where I am now.
Sorry?
That's probably where I am at the moment again.
Well, what you
I
do...
downsized over time.
Yeah, okay. Well, you know, it's a different thing if you're Bulmers and you're thinking of opening something as big as bloody, you know, their factory in Hereford in a small village. Okay, so what you do is flesh out what you intend to do in an email, send it to us, tell us where you are. We've got a job on at the moment down in Buckfastleigh, which is in a national park. Now, obviously, national park, oh dear, you know, they've got more restrictions on them than Soft Mick. I don't know what has got a lot of restrictions on. So that's quite a complicated job. If you're talking about a small-scale operation, as the one I've described that's going on in Worcester, just bung it into an email, just an outline. Tell us how many litres you're thinking of moving, what days you're thinking of doing the deliveries. Some people just do it all on one day and then they get on with their lives for the rest of the week, which is a fair one. What your square meterage of your outbuilding will be, what your throughput, I did the literage thing, put it on an email, chuck it to us, I'll send it up to our licensing partner and get them to have a look, because very quickly they will look at the regulations and the planning policies and the permitted use policies around where you live, and can give us a pretty good strategic assessment about how much officialdom, how much objection you're going to have from officialdom, sir. Okay.
Thank you.
Just to add in on the end, I've never seen DDA brought up within licensing. It is only a planning. Have you come across it at all, Nick?
I did wonder years ago whether the guy just threw it out to frighten me at the time.
It could well have been. It's certainly it's not a licensing issue.
No, yeah,
something we very rarely ever come across.
Okay, right. Now look, yeah, now you put me on the spot. I just put myself on mute. On the Malvern Tap House Brewery we were talking about, yes, there are certain things you have to do about DDA, and Paul's absolutely right. It's all to do with planning, but it's really, really easy. We just made sure that we've got access, okay, and that the toilets could cater for people with, you know, with issues, and it's just a tickety box thingy.
Yeah. No, the reason I brought it up, because obviously if you're looking, like I said, like Phil is, or like I am, just doing offline sales from this premise, I just wonder if there's any other external restrictions, because you're applying for an well, in this case, it would be an
we lost
license.
Yeah.
Whether there's other parameters on the unlicensed that would.
No,
I'll send an email. That's fine, thank you.
No worries, Phil. Nice to speak.
All right. Mr. Palmer, you had another question.
Yeah, something along the same lines, really. I've been approached several times by locals in a small village. Could I just set up something like a marquee on my drive once a month for them to call along and get some takeaway ciders? What sort of licensing would I require? I could do it on a temporary events notice, but would there be better options? Yeah,
well, the temporary events notice is specific for what, you know, just a pop-up. So look, Phil, what is it, Phil? Mr. Palmer, sorry. Yeah. Okay. What I'd advise is this: test your market, apply for a couple of tens. The police ain't going to like it. They go, oh, well, you know, opening a pub in your front garden, they're going to want to talk to you about it. By the way, there's only two people who can object to tens. It doesn't matter what the council say. There's two people. One's a policeman, and the other one is a environmental health. So if you're making lots of noise, upsetting all the neighbours, there's mad parties going on your front lawn and no one can get their babies off to sleep, they're going to be having a chat with you, big star. Okay, 10s can be a really, really good, useful route to test A, the market, and B, what the local objection will be. Now, on a controversial application, often I will put in a succession of temporary event notices, 4 in a row every weekend, for example, running up to the hearing. And if nobody complains when I'm standing there in my suit with my regimental tie on and I'm holding forth on your behalf in front of a licensing committee hearing, I say, well, yeah, Phil's actually run one of these 5 times already this year, and I've FOI'd the police, I've FOI'd environmental health, and we have not had one complaint about what he's done. So why everybody, all these NIMBYs have turned up right now to say, oh, well, my lord, you know, Sodom and Gomorrah, the earth's chicken licking, the sky's falling on my head. If he does this, it simply doesn't hold water. There is no evidence. Okay, so test it with your 10s first. Cheapest chips, 21 quid. Okay, see, the trouble is with 10s, these outdoor things, they are so weather dependent. You know, you can do all your Facebook thing, you can get all your mates coming. The moment it starts to rain, it's over. So, you know, the advantage of having a permanent premises license is it's permanent. You can do it anytime you want to, within sort of within the limits of the time limits that are prescribed on your on license. My advice to you is this: test that market and test your neighbours with 10s first. Okay.
If I put on a 10, do I have to provide any facilities like toilets or hand washing or anything like that?
Good question. Certainly, you won't be putting on any 10s like that under COVID-19. Obviously, part of your safe system of work with COVID-19 is social distancing. When it comes back, when we go back into business, it's going to be social distancing, hand washing anyway. So yeah, this is definitely going to be a slow burn for you, Phil. Okay. All right.
Do we have any other question, Dave? What's your question?
Hi guys, thanks for that. I've been running temporary event notices for about 18 months, once a month. And my local police authority license guy rang me up and said, why don't you get a premises license? So they're not always, they might find that getting an application once a month is annoying. They just rather you got a full-on license. But so I'm just about to do that now. I'm wondering whether to do it under the cover of COVID because it might just be a little bit easier to achieve. If you know what I mean. Very bad news for some people.
Yeah, it's odd. It's odd. Yeah, you've got 2 really good things. You've mentioned 2 really good things there. Yeah. With a temporary event notice, you've got to give 10 days notice for a standard or 5 days notice for a late. It's always well risky doing a late because if either the police or environmental health say no to it, you don't get a chance to object. So challenge that. You just have to suck it. Okay, so that's the first thing. And yes, you're right. They pop up. I used to run the licensing office, and they pop up on these guys' desks, and they've got to take a view. And if you're doing it every month, that's the thing they got to do. If you where do you live, by the way, Dave?
It's Kirkley.
Yeah, I know Kirkley's really well. I think that
Richard Woodhead, yeah.
Yeah, Richard Woodhead is a good mate of mine, a little badger.
Yes, cider mate.
Yeah, well, yeah, bloody hell. In a small world, I wasn't expecting this. I was expecting all 3 counties, guys. Yeah, bloody grand. Yeah, Rich, big mate of mine, big friend of the licensing guys who do a lot of work over your way. Right, so yeah, apply for your, if he's telling you to apply for your premises license, apply for it. Okay, yeah, because Richie wouldn't give you a bad steer, I'll tell you that now.
Absolutely not. Yeah, thank you very much. Cheers. And incidentally, for Phil, the temporary event notice, they've never, when I've filled one in, they've never asked for the facilities you provide. They don't really, you know, if there's a complaint about not having facilities, they might look into you, but first time, they'll not, you haven't got to say, I provide all the hand washing facilities or stuff. So.
We've not seen it asked for.
All right, cheers.
Super.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for that, Dave. Appreciated. Any other questions lurking around? I've got. Susanna. Yes, please do.
Just remembering how to unmute. Thanks very much, guys. Sorry I had to dash out on a call, but it's been fascinating. Just one thing to contribute on the internet sales, having just gone through the process ourselves for Little Pomona, and the conditions that we were given. I had 2 of the 3 that you mentioned. I didn't, and this was through Herefordshire Council, and I took the advice package. So they advised what I should put on for the conditions for the internet sales. I did not have 192.com. So whether that one is one that relates to whatever else with your own situation, I don't know. But what I did have was an additional age gate. So anyway, on our websites, we all have to have age gates because we're talking about alcohol, but we had to put in another one to confirm the age before the purchase is made. So
at the point of checkout, yeah, we've seen that one.
Yeah. So again, just something to know, and it was, just had to get your head around it.
Brilliant. Congratulations on getting your license as well.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah,
No
we're very happy. It's the only thing that's keeping us going, I tell you. But I do have one other question. It kind of relates to what you were saying before. So we're licensed as a tasting room, although it's just a bottle shop now for obvious reasons. And then we have a small bit of outside area, a patio and a small bit of orchard, which has been, you can imagine it's been drawn and they've approved it and they know exactly the size. If we want to, for example, enlarge the area of the orchard that we allow people to go and take their, down the line, not now, but in the future, take their glass of cider out to, is that when you have to get a variation of the license, and or is that also where you're saying it might relate to looking at planning permission? She says, not knowing.
Nick, I'll throw you onto that one because that's similar to another one that we've dealt with. Nick, have you got your mic?
Can you hear us all right, Nick? There he is.
Okay.
He's scratching.
Yeah, no, not at all. No, I'm struggling to hear. I take it. Susanna, are you from Little Pomona?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, you had the most recent license in Herefordshire for cider. Yes. And if they haven't put 192.com on there, that's really, really good news, because that's been something they've been insisting upon for, I don't know, about 6 months, maybe a year, and we've been saying, "Oh, are you sure?" And you heard me rehearse my reasons why I don't think 192.com. They've clearly taken that on board because they're not insisting on it anymore. So well done. That's something I won't be offering again. Good. Right. It was really, really choppy, your message to us. I'm sorry. You're talking about outside?
I'm talking about extending the area, because you have to be so specific, as you know, not just where you're dispatching from, if it's going to be online sales, which bit of your barn, but if you're serving, where you're going to serve to. So if we want to extend where we're serving to, is that difficult?
No, it's not difficult. What you do, I'm afraid it's a variation. What you do is you would apply for a variation with a new plan. For you, it'll probably be a minor variation because it doesn't sound like a massive job. Okay, you're not asking for extra hours or asking for additional licensable activities like live music or anything like that. You just want, but the way you test that is, where's your smoking area? I take it they're using that for smoking at the moment, are they?
No, the smoking area will be just to the right, so it'll just be a little bit more of the orchard, so it won't relate to smoking.
Okay. Do you intend to sell out there, or is it just a consumption area?
Just consumption.
In that case, yeah, that's a minor variation, and all you do is you get your plan and you change, there's the red line round where you'd have the licensable activities where the selling's going on, and then you have that blue line round the outside, that's your consumption area. So all you do is you extend the boundary of your consumption area under what's called a minor variation. You don't have to advertise that in the newspaper. So how much did you pay for your newspaper advert, Susanna?
Well, we went to Malvern Gazette, so it was less than Hereford Times, but it was still a couple of £100, but it wasn't 300.
Expensive, isn't it? Just for
Yeah.
a tiny advert that big.
I know, it's amazing.
Yeah,
But the
it's
newspaper,
shocking.
the newspaper.
You know what? If you put an advert,
I was going to say the newspaper people were great, because I rang up to place the ad thinking it had to be in Hereford Times, and she said, "Well, have you thought Malvern Gazette?" So she suggested. So I got it better, and I had to obviously check that the paper was being sold in my town of Bronyard. But once I'd done that, I was very happy to save £100.
Yeah, absolutely.
Super.
Brilliant.
Brilliant. Well, hopefully that's been of some use to you there, Susanna. I've got a question which pertains to, let's say, whether it be under a temporary event notice or a premises license. Does let's say in a shop or wherever it may be, does every single person that is undertaking the transaction, do they individually have to have a premises license? I've worked on bars and on things where I've obviously not had a personal license. Does the licensable person or the premises have to be present? How does that work?
You want me to take that one? Okay, so the person that has the personal license, who generally will be the DPS, the designated premise supervisor, their name will be added to the premises license. They're responsible in making sure that all licensable activities are overseen by them. The buck stops with them. But of course, they can't be on the premises all of the time. So they will sign a DPS authorization sheet where I, Paul Needs, license number, whatever, Herefordshire Council, authorize the following people to sell on my behalf. So they will all sign their names, date it to say they've signed, and then they are authorized to carry out the sale of alcohol under the umbrella of the designated premise supervisor. Brilliant. Some premises tend to have a couple of people with personal licenses, so there is somebody that's always sort of got that extra bit of knowledge, but no, the DPS can't always be on the premises at all times. Yeah. Some licenses do specify, certainly within some of the bigger public houses, that there must be a personal license holder present. But like you say, you could go to an event and work just with a personal license. Without a personal license, because you're working underneath the authority of the DPS.
Super. That's great. Thank you. That answers my question. Well, time's nearly up, everybody. There's probably time for one final question if somebody had something really burning to ask. But I suspect everyone's starting to get a little hungry and thinking about their dinner. Or is that just me? Quite possibly. I think that neatly brings us back round. Nick and Paul, thank you for your time. I think it goes without saying that you've obviously got a wealth of knowledge there. And for anybody who has any further questions, obviously do go and check them out. But I'll hand over to Dave to finish off. Mr. Vice Chairman, please.
I'm here, Gabe, and I've been listening intently. It's been a real education for me personally, and I hope for the rest of the membership. We're going to put this out at some point, Gabe, aren't we, on like a YouTube channel or something? Yep. I mean, we've got probably like 100 members, and we've got a large cross section of them represented today. But I'm so pleased that we've done this. It's been real education, and just a massive thank you to the licensing guys, Paul and Nick. I mean, I can see why you do what you do, and you're very successful because you certainly know your stuff, guys. I mean, we've had it from, the sort of the personing licensing to the planning permission. I mean, it's kind of run the whole gamut, really. So that's been really good. Thanks again. I'd like to give you a little plug just to remind people that you're running this online personal licensing course. If we'll send out the details of that. I'm kind of interested in that already, so that'd be really good. Thanks everybody for the questions. It's been fantastic. Hopefully we've been able to answer all of them. If not, send it to the info@thelicensinguys.com. Is that right?
That's right.
Yep. So send that on to them. I mean, it's been fantastic. I'm so pleased that everyone's got so much positivity from this. And we're going to try and follow this up next time with a sort of online web, how to get more stuff onto the web. Now we've got the license and we know what to do with the licenses. Maybe some marketing info, kind of the technology that's kind of going to be used. that's more my area of expertise a little bit. So I'll definitely be tuning in, and Gabe's going to be sort of co-hosting as well.
Sure. That might be subject to change possibly, Dave, given the results of the latest poll that went out to 3 counties members.
The polls are
actually, an interest in social media was head and shoulders above everything else as the most interested and requested thing that members want. So it's more likely going to be week after next. There will be a session like this all about social media. So if that's of interest to you, keep an eye out for the newsletter coming out from Albert, and via all the different channels you'll be hearing about it from us. And hopefully this will be the first of a number. If there's anything that you would like more of these sessions to hear about as members, do get in touch with Albert or with Simon or Susanna or myself, and we can surely put something together. But I think that just about wraps everything up. So thank you all very much for your time. Paul, Nick, once again,
thank you very much, everybody. It's been fantastic.
Have a lovely evening, everybody. Take care and stay safe.
What's
Keep drinking cider.
Fine.
What's sale?
Good health. Thanks, guys. Take care.